The airport was full of noise that day. People were dragging suitcases, checking boarding passes, and rushing toward their gates. Among the crowd, a young black girl named Maya stood quietly, holding her small bag. She was dressed in simple jeans and a hoodie. She looked around, her eyes full of hope. This was her first flight alone. Maya was going to meet her mother in another city. Her mother had found a new job, and Maya was finally going to live with her again after 1 year apart. Her heart was light with joy, but she didn't know what was waiting for her on that plane. Gate 34 was almost ready to board. A man stood a few feet away from Maya. His name was Mr. Walter Crane. He was in his 50s, tall, wearing a suit, and holding a black briefcase. He had a sharp face, cold eyes, and a strong dislike for people who didn't look like him. As he looked at Maya, something changed in his face. His jaw tightened, his eyes narrowed. He watched as Maya smiled at the flight attendant and gave her ticket. "Enjoy your flight," the woman said kindly. Maya walked down the boarding bridge. With excitement, she had chosen a window seat 13A. She found it and sat down, looking out the window at the workers below. She smiled softly, imagining her mom's hug at the other end. Then Mr. Crane entered the plane. He looked around and found his seat 13B. Right next to Maya, he stopped. His smile disappeared. He stared at Maya for a second too long. Maya looked at him and gave a polite smile. "Hello," she said softly. Mr. Crane didn't reply. Instead, he turned and walked toward the back of the plane. A flight attendant came toward him. "Sir, can I help you?" she asked. "I want another seat," he whispered firmly. "I'm not sitting next to her." "Excuse me, sir?" the flight attendant asked, confused. He leaned closer. "Move her. I don't want her next to me. You understand me, right?" The flight attendant looked surprised. "Sir, that's not how this works. Seats are assigned. I'm a frequent flyer," he interrupted. "I pay for business flights. She doesn't belong here. Either move her or move me." The flight attendant looked at Maya, who was still sitting quietly, unaware of the conversation. "Please return to your seat, sir," she said. "Let me talk to the captain." Mr. Crane returned to row 13 with a fake smile and sat beside Maya. But he didn't speak. He folded his arms and turned away. Maya could feel the tension in the air. She looked down at her hands, nervous. A few minutes later, the captain himself came down the aisle. He bent near Maya. "Excuse me, miss," he said. "Can I ask you to step out of the plane for a moment?" Maya blinked. "Why, is something wrong?" "It'll just take a second. Please come with me." Maya stood up slowly, confused and embarrassed. People looked at her but said nothing. She followed the captain toward the front of the plane. Outside, the captain and flight attendant stood with serious faces. "We've had a complaint," the captain said. "One of our passengers feels uncomfortable." "Uncomfortable with what?" Maya asked, her voice shaking. "He says he doesn't want to sit next to you," the flight attendant said quietly, ashamed. Maya's heart dropped. "But I didn't do anything. I just sat in my seat." "We understand," the captain said, avoiding eye contact. "But to avoid further conflict, we'd like to move you to another flight." Maya stared at them. "Are you saying I have to leave? Because of him, we're trying to avoid a scene," the captain replied. "It's for your own safety and comfort." Tears filled Maya's eyes, but she didn't cry. She took a deep breath. "Fine," she said, voice firm now. "I'll go." She turned and walked away from the plane slowly. The boarding gate workers looked confused. She didn't explain. She didn't need to. But someone had seen everything. An old woman with gray hair and round glasses had been watching from seat 15C. Her name was Mrs. Grace. She had traveled the world. She had seen war, peace, change and hatred, and she had seen enough. She stood up from her seat and followed Maya off the plane without a word. Maya was standing near the windows, trying not to cry. "Excuse me, dear," Grace said gently. "But was wrong? You didn't deserve that." Maya looked up, surprised. "You saw it. I saw everything, and I won't stay quiet." Maya shook her head. "They don't care. People like him always win." Grace gave her a kind smile. "Not this time." She took out her phone and asked, "Can I take your name and number?" Maya nodded slowly. Grace snapped a photo of the gate, the plane, and the crew members. Back on the plane, Mr. Crane sat comfortably, his face proud. He looked at the empty seat next to him and smirked. But his victory was going to be short. Very short. Because what happened next would shock the world. The plane doors were about to close. Passengers were settling into their seats, but something felt strange in the air. Whispers had started. A few people had noticed the empty seat where Maya had been sitting just minutes ago, and others noticed something else. The old woman from row 15C, Mrs. Grace, had also disappeared. Back at the gate, Maya sat alone in a hard chair. Her hands were shaking. Her phone buzzed again and again with texts from her mom, but she couldn't reply. She didn't know what to say. How could she explain that she'd been removed from a flight for simply existing? She looked down at her shoes, trying to hold in the tears. Beside her, Mrs. Grace sat quietly. Her eyes were fixed on her phone. She was typing with focused, quick, sharp words like arrows. She had just posted everything online, every detail. The man's face, the airline name, the exact words the captain said. And she didn't stop there. She tagged news pages, reporters, and airline accounts. People had to know. Inside the plane. The flight attendant approached Mr. Crane again. "Would you like some water, sir?" she asked. He gave a smug smile. "Much better now, thank you." He leaned back in his seat and pulled out his newspaper like nothing had happened. Around him, a few passengers exchanged quiet glances, but no one said a word. The captain stood near the cockpit, watching everything through the narrow aisle. He looked nervous. Something about removing Maya didn't sit right with him, but he told himself he had done the safe thing. One passenger was upset. Removing her avoided a scene. That was what he thought, until a crew member whispered something into his ear. "Sir, a woman from row 15C posted a message about what happened. It's spreading fast. We've already gotten calls." The captain's face went pale. "What kind of message?" "She's accusing us of removing a black girl because of a racist man's complaint." The captain froze. He had made a choice, a quiet one, a quick one, and now the world was finding out. Back at the gate, Maya stared at her boarding pass. She had kept it in her pocket like a memory. She wanted to cry, but something inside her refused. She had done nothing wrong. Mrs. Grace touched her arm gently. "Sweetheart, I know this hurts, but I promise you, this isn't over. You're not alone anymore." Maya looked up slowly. "Why are you helping me?" Grace smiled. "Because silence feeds hate, and I have been silent before. Not this time." She opened her phone again and, this time, she uploaded a photo of Maya sitting alone. Her face was tired, her eyes red. The caption read, "This is Maya. She was removed from a flight because a white man didn't want to sit next to a black girl." The airline agreed. "I saw it happen, and I won't let it stay quiet. Hashtag justice for Maya." In just minutes, the post exploded. Comments flooded in. People were angry. Some cried. Some offered to fly Maya themselves. Reporters messaged Grace directly, and others began searching. Who was the man who forced her off? Who was the captain? What was this airline doing? Back inside the plane, the captain stood with his hand on the intercom. He was sweating now. He turned it on and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, we're experiencing a short delay. Thank you for your patience." But no one believed him anymore. Passengers were checking their phones. One young man in row 17 whispered to his wife, "This is about that girl, isn't it?" She nodded. "Yes, I just saw the post. It's everywhere. Even the flight attendants. We're reading it now." The story was too big to hide. Suddenly Mr. Crane felt a change. The air around him was colder. He noticed the way people looked at him now, not with silence, but with disgust. He folded his newspaper, looked straight ahead, and pretended not to hear the whispers. But it was too late. Outside the plane, Maya's phone finally buzzed with a message from the airline. "We are sorry for your inconvenience. A supervisor will speak to you shortly." It didn't feel like an apology. Maya stared at the screen. She didn't want money. She didn't want a new ticket. She wanted to be seen, heard, respected, just like anyone else. Mrs. Grace stood up and walked toward the gate counter. She spoke clearly to the worker there. "I need to speak with someone in charge," she said. "This isn't going away, and your company better be ready." Inside the plane, the captain looked down the aisle. He saw the empty seat again. Then he looked at Mr. Crane. For the first time, he felt shame. But it was too late for silence now, because the world was watching, and Maya's story had just begun. The airport was busy, but in one quiet corner, Maya sat silently, her hands in her lap. Her phone rested on the seat beside her, still buzzing from notifications. She didn't touch it. She stared ahead, trying to hold back her tears. Her heart felt heavy. Her chance to see her mom had turned into a moment of shame. Beside her, the old woman, Mrs. Grace, stood firm. Though her hair was gray and her face lined with age, there was strength in her eyes. Strength Maya had never seen in a stranger before. Grace said softly, "Do you know what's happening now?" Maya shook her head. "Thousands of people are talking about you," Grace continued. "The world is hearing your story, and they care." Maya looked confused. "Why would they care about me?" "Because what happened to you was wrong," Grace said. "And when someone stands up to wrong, others notice." Just then, a young airport worker rushed toward them. His name tag read Ethan. "Ma'am," he said, looking at Grace, "your post? It's all over social media. We've been told someone from corporate is on the way." Grace nodded. "Good. Tell them I'll be waiting right here with Maya." Ethan glanced at Maya, then at Grace. He hesitated, then said softly, "I saw it too. I saw what that man did. But I didn't say anything. I'm sorry." Maya gave him a small, sad smile. "Thank you." More airport workers walked by now, slowing down when they saw Maya. Some looked ashamed, others curious, and some, like Ethan, were quiet but full of guilt. Inside the plane, Mr. Crane still sat in seat 13B. He noticed something strange now. Passengers weren't just whispering. They were staring at him. A young couple 2 rows behind leaned forward. The woman whispered, "That's him, right?" Her husband nodded. "Yeah, that's the guy." Mr. Crane shifted uncomfortably. He looked out the window, avoiding eye contact. His confidence was fading. Back outside, Maya's phone finally buzzed with a call. It was her mother. Maya, are you okay? What's going on? Maya took a deep breath. Mom, they made me leave the plane. What? Why? Because a man didn't want to sit next to me. There was silence. Then her mother spoke, her voice shaking. Sweetheart, I'm so sorry. It's okay, Maya whispered, but I'm not alone. Someone helped me. Her name is Grace. Grace leaned in and waved at the phone, smiling. Maya, her mom said, I'm proud of you. I'll be there as soon as I can. After the call, Maya finally looked at her phone screen. Her name was everywhere, so was her photo. People were commenting things like, this is heartbreaking. How can this still happen in 2025? The airline better fix this fast. Maya, you are not alone. Maya blinked, not believing what she saw. She wasn't just one girl on a plane. Anymore, she had become a voice, a symbol for many others, who had faced hate but stayed quiet. Then came the surprise. A reporter walked up to them with a cameraman. Excuse me, she said. We're from Channel 7 News. Are you Maya? Maya nodded. Slowly, we'd like to hear your side of the story, the reporter said gently. Would that be okay? Maya hesitated. She looked at Grace. You don't have to, Grace said. But if you want to, I'm right here with you. Maya looked at the camera. She took a deep breath. And for the first time that day, she found her voice. She told them what happened. From the moment she boarded, to the moment she was forced off. She kept her words simple, honest. She didn't try to sound brave, but her courage was in every word. Back on the plane, passengers were now openly checking their phones. One woman raised her hand and called the flight attendant. Excuse me, she said. Why was that girl removed from the flight? The flight attendant paused. Ma'am, I can't discuss other passengers. No, the woman said. Louder now. I read the story, and I want to know why you let that man stay, and made the girl leave. A few other passengers spoke up too. One man stood up and said, I saw her. She was polite. She didn't do anything. The captain stepped out of the cockpit again. This time, the mood on the plane had changed. People weren't quiet anymore. He looked at Mr. Crane, who was now sweating and fidgeting in his seat. Suddenly, he didn't look so powerful. In fact, he looked small, weak, outside. Maya's story was now on every news site. Celebrities were sharing it. Lawyers were offering help. Activists were tagging the airline nonstop. And inside that airport gate, Maya finally smiled, because a stranger had seen everything, and chosen not to look away. The sun was setting outside the airport windows, casting a warm orange light across the floor, but inside, the air was buzzing not just with people, but with news, noise, and anger spreading across the internet. Maya sat beside Mrs. Grace, her face calm now. She had spoken her truth. She had told the reporter everything softly, honestly, without hate. But her words had touched hearts all over the country. Her story had now been shared over 1 million times. The video clip from the news report was going viral on every platform. A young black girl was removed from a flight because a man didn't want to sit beside her. She was calm, she was quiet, she was innocent, and she was punished. People were furious. Famous actors, singers, and even politicians began tweeting about Maya. Hashtags like #JusticeForMaya, #StandWithHer, and #NotAnotherSeat were trending worldwide. One message from a well-known human rights lawyer stood out. We're offering Maya free legal support. What happened is not just wrong, it's illegal. At the same time, the airline's official social media pages were being flooded with comments. Why haven't you removed the racist man? This is unacceptable. I'll never fly with you again. You owe Maya more than an apology. People were demanding action. Back on the plane, the pressure had reached the cockpit. The captain looked pale. The flight attendants were no longer hiding their stress. Some even whispered among themselves, glancing at Mr. Crane, who now sat nervously. Gripping the armrest, he was no longer smiling. A flight attendant approached the captain and whispered, Sir, corporate just called. They said the CEO is watching this unfold. They want us to delay takeoff until further notice. The captain nodded, then walked into the cabin and turned on the speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, he said, his voice tense, we're experiencing a temporary delay due to passenger concerns. We thank you for your patience. No one believed it. No one even cared about the delay now. A young woman in the back of the plane stood up and said loudly, Why haven't you brought Maya back? We all saw the truth. Another man shouted, You're protecting a racist and punishing a child. Mr. Crane looked around. The people who were once silent were now speaking up. Their words hit him like sharp arrows. He looked down, breathing hard. He didn't understand how things had turned so fast. Back at the airport lounge, Maya's phone lit up with a message. It was from the airline's vice president of public relations. We would like to offer you a full refund, a free flight voucher, and a personal apology from our executive team. Maya stared at the message. She showed it to Grace, who read it carefully, and then raised an eyebrow. That's all they think this is worth. A voucher. Maya didn't reply. Grace took out her phone and typed again. To the airline. Maya doesn't want free flights. She wants dignity. She wants truth. She wants change. Until then, your apology means nothing. The post exploded with support. People shared their own stories of being mistreated for their skin color, accent, religion, or clothes. Maya had opened a door and behind it were millions who had been silent for too long. At that moment, another message arrived, this time from a major television network. We would like to invite Maya and Mrs. Grace to speak on national TV. America is listening. Grace looked at Maya. You ready for this? Maya took a breath. Yes. Inside the plane, things were falling apart. Passengers were standing up, demanding answers. One woman said, "Bring her back or I'm getting off this flight." Others followed. The flight that was supposed to take off an hour ago was now full of angry voices, and the airline knew it. Had made a mistake that wouldn't go away easily. In one final act of courage, the captain stepped forward. He walked to Mr. Crane and said in a low voice, "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave the flight." "What? Why me?" Mr. Crane snapped. The captain replied, "We reviewed the footage, and the world is watching." Passengers started clapping. Mr. Crane stood up, red with anger, and grabbed his briefcase. He stormed off the plane in silence. Not a single person looked sorry to see him go. Outside, Maya watched through the window as the man who hurt her walked back into the terminal alone. Her phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't a message. It was a notification. A post about her had just crossed 5 million views, and that's when Maya realized something powerful. She had started out as just a quiet girl on a flight, but now, she was the voice of thousands, and her journey was only just beginning. The story had now reached every corner of the internet. Maya's name was on news websites, social media, and TV channels. Her video interview had crossed over 10 million views, and people around the world were sharing her story. But then something unexpected happened. A young journalist named Tara was scrolling through Maya's video when she paused the frame on the man's face, Mr. Crane. She stared at his cold eyes. That sharp jawline, the anger in his expression, something about him looked familiar. She opened an old folder on her computer titled Unsolved Reports. Inside it were screenshots, images, and documents she had collected over the years. She believed that sometimes stories get ignored, especially when victims are quiet. She had always wanted to expose such people. As she scrolled, her heart skipped a beat. There he was, the same man, same face, different victim. 4 years ago, a young black couple had posted about being removed from a first-class lounge in another airport. They said a man had complained, claiming they were too loud and didn't belong. No action was taken. The post didn't go viral, but the photo the couple posted showed the face of the man who complained. It was Mr. Crane. Tara dug deeper. She found another post, this one from 2 years ago. A Middle Eastern woman in a hijab said she was made to leave a waiting area after a white man told staff she looked suspicious. Again, no justice. Just a few angry comments online. The man in the photo. Mr. Crane again. Tara's hands shook as she typed a new article. Repeat offender. Man who got Maya removed from flight has history of racist complaints. She included all the old posts, the faces of the victims, and the way their stories had been ignored. But not this time. This time, the world was listening. The article went viral in minutes. People were shocked and furious. Comment after comment poured in. This man has been doing this for years. How did no one stop him? We failed all the others. We won't fail Maya. It's time to expose every name, every face, every hidden story. Inside Maya's home, her mother read the article and sat in silence. Her heart ached. Knowing her daughter had been the latest target of a man who had gotten away with hurting others before, she looked at Maya sitting at the dining table, calmly eating cereal. The young girl had no idea just how big her voice had become. "Maya," her mom said softly, "do you know who that man really is?" Maya looked up. "What do you mean?" Her mom showed her the article. Maya read every word slowly. Her eyes widened. "He did this to other people?" Her mom nodded, and they stayed quiet because no one listened. But now, they're finally being heard. Back at the airport, reporters crowded near the entrance. Everyone wanted to speak to Maya again, but Grace stood in front of her like a shield. "She's a child," Grace said. "She's not here for your headlines. She's already said enough. Now it's time for you to speak. For the airline to speak, for the world to act." That night, Maya lay in bed, scrolling through messages. One caught her eye. It was from a girl named Lena, who had worn a hijab in one of the old stories. Her message said, "I was scared when it happened to me. I cried alone. But watching you gave me courage. Thank you, Maya." Maya put the phone down slowly. She didn't feel powerful. She didn't feel strong, but she knew one thing now. Her pain had given someone else strength. And sometimes, that's how change begins. The next morning, sunlight streamed through Maya's bedroom window. But it wasn't an ordinary morning. Her phone had over 200 missed messages, and people from across the world were still talking about her. Reporters were waiting outside the house. News vans were parked along the street. Some neighbors stood nearby, watching. Whispers filled the air. Inside, Maya sat quietly at the kitchen table. She held a cup of tea in both hands, but it had gone cold. Her eyes were focused on the floor. She had spoken once. but the world still wanted more. Her mother sat beside her. You don't have to say anything else, Maya, you've already done enough. Maya nodded, but her heart wasn't settled. She remembered the message from Lena. She remembered Mrs. Grace's kind words. She remembered the silence in the plane, when no one spoke up, and she remembered that man's face, the way he looked at her like she was less than human. She looked up. Her voice was soft but clear. I want to speak just once more, but in my own way. A few hours later, Maya sat in front of a camera, not in a studio, but in her own living room. Her mother sat beside her, holding her hand. Mrs. Grace was there too, watching from the corner with a proud smile. A kind reporter from a national news channel had offered her full control. No loud questions, no pushing, just space to speak. The camera light turned red. It was recording. Maya took a deep breath and began. My name is Maya. I'm 13 years old. I was removed from a plane just because a man didn't want to sit next to me. She paused. I didn't shout. I didn't fight. I was quiet. I was scared. I didn't understand what I did wrong. Her voice shook slightly, but she kept going. Later I found out that this man had done it before. 2 other people like me, and no one stopped him. She looked straight into the camera now. But I'm not angry anymore. I'm not even sad. Her hands trembled slightly, but her eyes stayed strong. I'm speaking because I want people to know. It's okay to be different. It's not okay to be treated badly for it. I don't want free flights. I don't want money. I want respect. I want fairness. And I want people to stand up, not just when it's easy, but when it's hard. She looked at the camera for a long moment. And if you're watching this and something like this has ever happened to you, you're not alone. The room was quiet when she finished. The reporter looked at her in awe. That was beautiful, Maya. Mrs. Grace walked over and gave Maya a soft hug. You didn't just speak, dear. You lit a fire in the hearts of many. Within hours, the video was posted. It was shared everywhere. People commented. I cried watching this. She speaks better than most adults. She has more courage than I ever did. Her voice is changing the world. Back at the airline's headquarters, the board of directors watched the full video in silence. Some had their heads down. Others wiped tears from their eyes. For the first time, they saw Maya not as a news story, not as a headline, but as a human being. And they knew they had failed her. But Maya wasn't done yet, because what she said in that one short video wasn't just heard, it was felt. The video of Maya speaking had taken the world by storm. In less than 24 hours, it had reached over 50 million views. People were crying, sharing, and demanding one thing: action. For the first time in days, the airline was silent. No new posts, no replies, no interviews. Until now. Inside the tall glass building of the airline's headquarters, the boardroom was full. Executives sat in heavy chairs. Some looked nervous, others looked ashamed. A large TV on the wall played Maya's speech. Again, I don't want money. I want respect. I want people to stand up, not just when it's easy, but when it's hard. No one said a word after it ended. Finally, the CEO, Mr. Adrian, roasted up. He was in his early 60s, always calm. But today, even his hands were shaking slightly. We failed her, he said. We didn't just remove a girl from a plane. We removed her dignity. We listened to hate instead of humanity. The room remained quiet. Mr. Rowe continued. We have a choice. We can wait for this to pass and protect ourselves, or we can do the right thing. He looked at his team. We make this right publicly, honestly, and without hiding behind weak apologies. Within hours, a press conference was announced. The world watched. Cameras clicked. Reporters gathered. The airline's official page went live. Mr. Rowe stepped up to the podium. His voice was steady, but his face showed regret. I want to speak directly to Maya, her mother, and everyone who saw what happened on our flight. He paused. There is no excuse. We were wrong. Reporters leaned forward. That young girl showed more courage and grace than we did. She spoke with love, when she had every reason to be angry. He looked down for a moment, then added, CEO of this airline, I take full responsibility. The man who caused this, Mr. Walter Crane, has been permanently banned from flying with us. He has also been reported to legal authorities for past misconduct. The room went silent. And starting today, Mr. Rowe said, we are launching a new program, the Maya Initiative, focused on anti-discrimination. Training for every employee in our company, pilots, crew, staff, everyone. He held up a framed photo of Maya speaking during her video. This girl changed us. Back at home, Maya and her mother watched the live stream. Her mom held her hand tightly, her eyes full of emotion. When Mr. Rowe finished speaking, the entire room stood and clapped, not out of habit, but from genuine respect. Maya looked at the screen for the first time. She saw something different in their eyes, not pity, but honor. Mrs. Grace, sitting nearby, wiped her eyes. You did this, sweetheart. You turned pain into power. That evening, the airline sent a car to Maya's home. Inside the envelope was a letter handwritten by the CEO himself. It said, Dear Maya, you reminded us what it means to be human. We don't just thank you, we follow you. Always. Adrian Rowe. Inside the envelope was also a card. Lifetime free travel. Maya. James. Maya looked at it quietly, then smiled. I don't care about flying, she said. I care about what happens after you land. A week had passed since the airline's public apology. The world had moved fast, but Maya's story hadn't faded. In fact, it had grown. People still talked about her. Schools shared her video. Families spoke about her courage at dinner tables. Teachers used her story in classrooms to teach children about respect and kindness. But Maya herself had gone quiet. Not because she was afraid, but because she didn't need to speak anymore. Her words had already done their job. One quiet morning, Maya sat at the window, reading a book. Her mom was making breakfast. Outside, birds flew across the sky. Everything felt normal again, until the mail arrived. Her mother walked in with a small white envelope. This came for you, Maya. There was no return address, just her name in soft handwriting. Maya opened it slowly. Inside was a simple letter, written in pink crayon, that it read, "Dear Maya, I saw your video. My name is Chloe. I'm 9 years old. I'm also black like you. I was scared to fly because people laugh at my hair and my skin. But then I saw you. Now I know I'm not alone. I'm going to fly soon, and I won't be scared. Because you were brave, I can be brave too. Love, Chloe." A small photo was inside. It showed a little girl smiling at an airport gate, holding a teddy bear and a boarding pass. Maya stared at the letter. Her hands trembled. Her eyes filled with tears. Not tears of sadness. Tears of purpose. Her mom knelt beside her. "Are you okay?" Maya nodded. This is everything." She folded the letter carefully and placed it inside a book next to the photo of her and Mrs. Grace at the airport. She didn't need trophies. She didn't need fame. That one letter was worth more than anything else. From that day on, Maya decided something quietly in her heart. She would never stop speaking when she saw injustice. She would always stand up not just for herself, but for others like Chloe. Because sometimes, one voice is enough to start a movement, and Maya's voice had already changed the world.